Those who are not part of my class typically, welcome back to the second of the guest panels here for Journalism 1300. I'll be your host, Dr. Adam Tima. The panel's discussion for today is the topic of not so alt media. So what's happening with alternative media, where does it come from, and how has it changed? And what's happening kind of in the industry now. This goes along with what you've been reading in your chapters, regardless of where you're at the moment, so I think that you'll find the conversation should be fun. I'm going to go through and introduce our panelists, and I'm going to ask them to kind of start with the first question, which is, how did you get to where you are now? So, immediately to my left is Rachel Jacobson. Rachel Jacobson is founder, curator, what else should we put under your title? So, she basically is Film Streams, which is the Rustock Theater down in Nodo, which is downtown Omaha. It is what I would consider probably one of the best independent film houses you will ever go to. And she will pitch it, and I will pitch it. You should go there and check it out, without a doubt. Next to Rachel is Charlie Reed. Charlie Reed is, you've had a promotion recently.
Associate Director of Media Relations.
Associate Director of Media Relations here at UNO. That's not why I've got him here. I've got him here because he also is a published researcher in video games and horror, and like he just had an article come out on Resident Evil. And he's presented at conferences on this topic, on the idea of genre and the idea of what's going on inside of the notion of the video game or the horror movie. Next to Charlie is Ryan Sierick. Ryan Sierick is, amongst other things, the film critic for the Omaha Reader. So if you read the Reader and you've seen the film criticism in there and you've seen the many blanked out expletives, that's him. He also runs the Movie Hop podcast with one of his partners in crime, which he'll be talking about a bit as well. Next to Ryan is Dave DeMarco. Dave DeMarco is one of the founders, co-owner of Legends, Comics, and Coffee, which is right up on Leavenworth here. Go there, please, please. It is the first comic shop I've ever walked into where I was like, am I allowed to touch anything? This feels kind of like a library. It's a beautiful experience, and there's coffee. You can never go wrong there. So please give them a warm welcome for coming in and joining us on this Thursday morning. So the first question, and as always, if you have questions you'd like to ask any of the panelists or comments, you don't feel the urge to raise your hand. I'll do my catch to grab those hands. But also we have the lovely Twitterverse going on. So when you're not meerkatting, please post your hashtags to or your tweets JUR1500. I've also got handles for folks and their hashtags up in the first tweet. So if you want to go directly to them, it's up there as well. The first question, I'll start with Rachel. We'll have to go right down the road here. Is how did you get to where you are now and doing what you're doing now? Because your story is cool. So let's start with your story. It's pretty cool.
Okay. So thanks, Adam. So basically, I was an English and political science major in college, so liberal arts, had no idea what I wanted to do, but I studied in Edinburgh for a semester, and there was a Cinematheque about a block away. There's Cinematheques all over Europe, which are basically museums for film. They're like movie theaters that play classic films and really are kind of focused on the art of film. And so I just had this like epiphany one day that I wanted to work promoting film as an art form. I was taking all these film history and criticism classes in school, so I was analyzing film in the same way I had analyzed literature in my English classes and getting really in-depth and really passionate about it. And really wanted my job to be sharing these kind of artist-driven films and these interesting films. So I had this kind of like epiphany, I'm gonna open up a Cinematheque in Omaha someday. And of course I was, 21 with no work experience, so I knew that I wasn't quite ready to do that yet. So I moved out to New York City, lived and worked there for about 5 years, mostly for different nonprofit organizations, and really learned like the structure of nonprofit, and the fact that fundraising is pretty much, I figured that was going to be the hardest part, was going to be raising money, but I kind of sort of better fleshed out the idea for what this movie theater would be. It would be a mission-based cinema. So the difference between nonprofit and for-profit is that the bottom line is the mission on a nonprofit, whereas the bottom line is to make as much money as you can for commercial venture. And of course, you know, a nonprofit has to operate like a business. There's a lot of commercial ventures that that have double and triple bottom lines that you hear about. But fundamentally that we would have to be not just dependent on box office and concessions, that we have to like supplement our income with gifts from people who cared about it. And so when I had the opportunity to move home, it was 2005, and my friends run Saddle Creek Records, which is a record label that's based here in Omaha, Fridays and Cursive and the Fade, and they wanted to build a concert venue and knew I had this idea to build this movie theater. So they said, well, why don't you, sorry, pregnancy makes you out of breath. they said, well, why don't you come home and be our other anchor tenant in this development, and you could have your movie theater there, and we can complement each other. So, so they built Slow Down. Have any of you guys been to Slow Down? A couple people. Okay, so this is a really sweet concert venue. And how many of you have been to Film Streams? A bunch of you. That is amazing. That's awesome. Thank you. So we opened both Slow Down and Film Streams in 2007, so it'll be 8 years this summer, which is insane. And, you know, we show first-run films, which most of our screen time is devoted to the new films, foreign films, American independence, documentaries. We'll get a little bit more into that. We also show classics from throughout the history of cinema. So right now we have a Katharine Hepburn series going because the Durham's doing an exhibit of her costumes, so it really kind of complements that. We do a ton of community partnerships. We actually have a program called our Community Development Program, where different nonprofit organizations can reach out to us and say, there's this film, it really relates to our mission, can we show it? And we can talk about what we do. So we've got actually one tonight and one on Tuesday that are screenings with panel discussions. So we really try, we believe that film is such an important art form, such an important medium. It's a great springboard for conversation, and we have an education program, Film History and Criticism for high school students. Maybe some of you came down with your classes in high school for daytime screenings, field trips where we show films and have conversations after. Also, the first Monday of every month, if you guys don't know, is always free for full-time students. So all of our programs, mark your calendar, first Monday of every month, you can see whatever you want for free. So, yeah.
All right, then.
And now you can read.
Now you can read. Let me read first.
Charlie, how about
Okay.
you?
I'll talk kind of about my position here at UNO and then also, I guess, the research stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
So, I was a student, undergrad student here, broadcasting student, and then when I got done with that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to work for a local news program, not anything against them, it's just I didn't want to be woken up at 2 a.m. for a fire, which ends up being ironic. But I didn't want to like lug a huge tripod around and go and cover stories. So I went back to school, got my master's degree, still didn't know what I wanted to do after that, but I knew that I had been in school since kindergarten and needed a break. So luckily, someone that I knew that was working in what was then the University Relations Department said, hey, we don't have anyone that's really taking care of our online presence. And this is in 2010, which is kind of late to the game. And so they're like, would you come in and kind of help provide content for our social media channels? And so that's what I did for about a year. And then the person who was the media relations coordinator when I was there for that job left for a different job, and I applied for her job, got it, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's been kind of just a one-man operation. So to allow for a new person in that office, I recently got bumped up, and now we're hiring someone. I think the job posting actually just went up today. So we will hopefully have a two-person office now. And kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis is I write news releases, send them out to TV, newspaper, and radio, and then hopefully among the millions and millions of press releases that they get for that day, maybe they say, hey, that one looks kind of interesting, let's go and cover it. And then also, if something bad happens, which is why the fire thing is ironic, is I didn't want to be in a position where I had to be woken up to go cover emergencies. Now I have to be woken up to go cover emergencies, so it kind of didn't work out at all. So when big kind of negative things happen, my job is also to provide as much information as possible while also maintaining the brand reputation for UNO, so that because as I'm sure anyone knows, if you screw up once, people don't forget it for a long time. So it's really important to maintain that brand identity. And so on the research side, while I was a grad student, I took a number of courses from Dr. Tima and kind of decided that I really liked things that were weird and scared people. And I wanted to figure out why. And so it initially started with anime. I really liked anime, and I wanted to look at why people kind of, I think, initially reject anime, but even though anime is a huge, impressive art form, and it's not just cartoons like we understand cartoons, it's so much more than that. And then that just kind of branched off into video games and movies and kind of the darker side of those different media. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So that works.
I ended up being a movie reviewer on accident, because no one ever has that as a life goal. But it basically came about because I've never turned down a writing assignment in my entire life. I've written for website content, I've written song lyrics. I'll write anything anybody asks me to, because it's hard to kind of make it as a writer, which is why I have 3 jobs. But I've been writing at The Reader now it's been 13 years now I've been there. It's been great, and especially this last year, because we finally, after 13 years of me pushing for it, have transitioned the way we're kind of doing stuff. We went to a monthly print format now, so we kind of have more of like a magazine thing going, which allows for deeper features as opposed to just the reviews that I had to do like every single week. Those now are all on the website, and so we have fresh content there all the time, but it allows me to do deeper dives into things and sort of, you know, approach subjects that come from complex films and ideas like that, you know, in a bigger way. I'm proud to say that the first time I had the opportunity to write such a feature, I did write it on Ben Affleck's penis. So that was the first thing I did. It was actually about nudity and this disparity between how it's presented in men and women in films. Staggering statistics, something like, I want to say, 35% of all women with a speaking role in a movie are shown in some state of undress. It's just nuts. And so, yeah, I really like the ability to talk about those things. I love dialogue about all art forms, and you know, be it comic books, which is what got me worked up the other day, or or movies, or anything. And I really also think, since this is an alternative panel, one of my favorite things is The Reader, for the first time in my opinion, is starting to really finally push into the true alternative news media that I think they should be, which is, you know, our first article that our first issue we had thematically that came out in February. They originally pitched the love issue, and I said, well, that seems like something the Omaha World Herald would do. And so they went with the sex issue, and we talked about things like the STD rate in Omaha that no one really talks about as much, even though it's giant and bad here. And so, yeah, so that's just a little bit about me and what I do.
All right. Dave.
My story begins when I was 4 years old. So comic books have just been a lifelong love of mine. I mean, it's something that usually people kind of discover when they're a little kid, like you watch Spider-Man or Superman, some cartoon, and then you hopefully seek out the medium that spawned it. And so that's what I did. But in the 90s, and this harkens to what Charlie said, I stopped reading them because in the 90s comic books were very bad. They became not so much about the writing and the story, but they became gimmicks. Like every other cover had a hologram or was lenticular or something like that, and you'd have to order, like you'd have to buy 10 of one #1 because it might go up to $50 and this and that. And so people were not collecting comics or reading comics out of love, they were just sort of doing it because. And I stopped doing it, and I got into anime because I like animation. But then one day I was down in Homer's in the Old Market, and they used to sell comic books down there. And I hadn't read comic books then for about 5 years. And I was walking past their comic book shelf, and there was a book called Astro City with a cover by a man named Alex Ross, who I had missed his entry into the comic book world. And so I'm walking past this cover, and on it is a man made of metal, and he is like Colossus from the X-Men, and he looks like Robert Mitchum eating a plate of scrambled eggs in a diner, and he looks super sad. And I was just like, why is this metal man so sad? And I picked it up and I read it, and I was like, this is a good comic book. Comic books are good again. And so I started reading them again. And then I got distracted by life. I went to UCLA for screenwriting, and then I came back and I got a job at another comic book store that I will not name because they are in Omaha. And I worked there for many years. And at that place, I decided that I wanted to do something differently because comic book stores, traditionally, if you watch The Simpsons, have a reputation, and it is the comic book guy. And he is a cynical jerk who does not like you and does not like what you like and will not help you, etc. And I would like to think of myself as the opposite of that. So when I had the opportunity, I helped to create a store that also opened in 2007 that basically was, comic books are wonderful, we love them, you should love them, there's a comic book for everybody. Let's be that place where anyone can come and talk about this. If you've never read a comic book in your life, I want to talk to you. For a half hour I will talk to you about anything you want to know about, I'll talk. And hopefully you will find the same love that I have for comic books. And that is why I do what I do now, and I love it.
Excellent. I had a question come up on the Twitter feed, and I think it's directed towards you, Rachel, primarily, and it deals with fundraising. Let me see if I can pull it up here quick. With the fundraising and event coordinating, what were some of the ways you engaged media to accomplish those fundraising goals?
Well, that's a great question. So we have a few different things that we do. We have a communications director. His name's Patrick, and he, for every special event, he sends out a press release. Anything that's outside of the normal programs, he sends out a press release to like a huge list of media people. We have a Facebook page with, I think we're up to 11,000 plus likes, and we have a Twitter page, and we get a lot of follows there. So when we do a really special event, we have this annual event called Feature, and that's where we raise a lot of money. Alexander Payne, actually the filmmaker who did Election and Descendants and Nebraska most recently, he is on our board. He's a founding member of our board, and so he's obviously very connected to a lot of really interesting people in Hollywood, and he is kind enough to invite them to come to Omaha. Not quite every year, we do it about every 18 months, and we do it as a fundraiser, but we try to engage as many people as we possibly can. And so last year it was David O. Russell came to town, who directed American Hustle and Silver Linings Playbook and The Fighter. And Alexander was in conversation with David O. Russell at the Holland Center, and 1,300 people were there, and it was really, really fun. So we try to promote that in every way we possibly can. We have a EE newsletter. I actually brought the e-newsletter sign up if you guys are interested in that. If you're interested in getting weekly emails from us, that's a big place. Our website is still the same website that we had in 2007. So we're actually doing a huge redesign right now. I think that that's really important. I mean, that our web presence is getting up to date. I'm kind of rambling here. I'm trying to think, what else do we do to promote? For fundraising, we also have a membership program, which is huge. The memberships get you, for $35, you guys can get a student membership, and it gets you tickets for $4.50 at the box office, super, super cheap, and then it also gets you 20% off at concessions. So it's a really good deal starting at the student level, but as it goes up, we have other benefits. You know, $250 gets your name on screen and your name in the newsletter. You get a little tote. At $1,000, you get a plaque on a seat and stuff like that. So that membership program is really, really important. And we do monthly renewals, a monthly renewal cycle. So whenever you gave your membership last year, that's when you'll get the letter to renew. And we promote it through email and everything else. Yeah, I have a development background, so that's a really important part of who we are and what we do. Just yeah, I would say the biggest thing with development is making sure your database is like super clean and good. I know that sounds boring, but it's really important.
So we've got a bunch of questions showing up here before we even get to one I've got set up here. And I'm going to kind of try and couch them so that they all kind of flow in one of the other. The first one I'm going to is kind of the big question, which is, how do you all feel about how fan culture, whether it be film culture or wrestling has popped up, wrestling culture or comic culture, whatever the case may be, how do you feel it's been covered by mainstream media? What are your thoughts on the coverage, how it's been? Should it be, I mean, I'm curious to know, and they're curious to know.
What I responded actually to one of the students was, I think, to me,